everyone, my name is Shanya Putri.
Hello, my name is Dela Syahcorina.
My name is Tesa Untari Darmawan.
Now we are going to tell you about production, putting words in one's mouth.
How does the part of the brain called cerebellum work? It is the part of the brain devoted to the programming, timing, and coordination of all voluntary muscular movements. From the cerebellum radiates hundreds of simultaneous messages along the nerve pathways which go to the appropriate muscle involved in the head and neck, in the back, in the arms and hands, in the leg, and in the feet. The primary function of the cerebellum is to provide feedback and fine-tuning for motor output.
According to Level, there are 4 models for speech production. First, conceptualization. Second, formulation. Third, articulation. And fourth, self-monitoring.
Next is conceptualization. Conceptualization is the process of conceptualization involves determining what to say. These are sometimes also called message level of representation. According to David McNeill, primitive linguistic concepts are formed as two concurrent and parallel modes of thought. Synthetic thinking. Thinking in words in a linear, sequential manner. It spawns the sequence of words which we typically think of when we talk about how language is initiated. It is segmented and linear and creates the strings of syllables, words, phrase, and sentences that together make up speech. And imagistic thinking. The visual component of the conceptualization of language that is ultimately manifested in the gesture which accompany speech.
The second model for speech production is formulation. At this stage, we move close enough to the eventual output of the process to allow us to be more precise in our terminology and more convincing in our use of empirical data. So people tend to produce and comprehend sentences in a linear way, and for comprehension, each additional piece of information that we receive has the potential to force us to revamp our understanding of what we have already heard. Slips of the tongue provide psycholinguistic evidence. They allow us to pick in on the production process because we know what the speaker intended to say. But the unintentional mistake freezes the production process momentarily and catches the linguistic mechanism in one instance of production. For example, are mistakes in speech or in writing which provide psycholinguistic evidence for the way we formulate words and phrases. The next is Spoonerism. It was named after William Spooner, a Victorian cleric and teacher who reputedly blundered through a lecture or sermon with infamous slips in speech production. Spoonerisms are slips of the tongue in which an actual word or phrase is created, often with a humorous twist to the meaning which was intended. Usually this happens by accident, particularly if you're speaking fast. For example, the breast in the bed instead of the bread in the bed. Although it appears to be embarrassingly indicative of an unconscious desire, there are at least two explanations for the source of this illicit feeling. First, the speaker was sexually provoked, or second, he was so exhausted, so he cannot slip the breast in the bed, the bread in the. So the formulation of slips of the tongue reveals important linguistic patterns that are also pervade normal and natural speech. Psycholinguistics is not what is being said, but how it is being said, or to be precise, misspoken.
Learning of higher levels of speech. Another way of trying to understand the process of producing language is to analyze the steps we have to take and the decisions we have to make in order to produce an intended utterance. Suppose, for example, that you might want to give a response either spoken or written in certain situation. So you decide to frame a response, and for whatever reason you choose to conceptualize the idea that the matter was not important. Pragmatics, the study of what people mean when they use language in a normal social interactions. Sociolinguistics, the study of why we say what to whom, when, and where. How social factors influence linguistic structure and us. Articulation. Articulation is a term used for all actions of the organs of the vocal tract modification of the signal generated by voice source. After the words and the phrases have been conceptualized and formulated, at this stage they are translated into the sounds and syllables of actual speech.
And the next is self-monitoring. Interlocutors not only produce speech and listen to one another when conversing, they also seem to keep one ear open on what they themselves are saying. And if they catch something amiss, they are quick to amend the goof and continue to converse. Difference between mistake and errors. Mistake is the production of incorrect forms in a speech or writing, the result of factors such as carelessness or fatigue. All speakers make mistakes, whether they are native or non-native users of target language. For example, I mistakenly added salt in tea instead of sugar. I'm sorry, I mistook you for someone else. And I made a mistake in the calculations. The above example indicate that a mistake is usually an unintentional wrong committed due to wrong judgment or an honest misunderstanding. Errors. Errors is the production of incorrect forms in speech or writing by non-native speaker of a second language, the results of incomplete knowledge of the rules that target language. For example, the last I know about it. Knew about it. He had left Vancouver. And she was so drunk, that we decided to drive her home. They have difficulty correcting it.
If you have any question, please put on a comment down below. Thank you.